Hey MMA fans, Caged Minds, your host Micah Frankel, here to do some predictions today. We're talking about UFC on FX3, happening June 8th. It's taking place in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Too bad we'll be watching on TV. Weather's got to be nice out there this time of year. There's 12 fights on this card. Start off on the prelims, give you a little prediction for each one, a little bit of a breakdown or a preview. Started off, Jake the Hitman Het, who's 11-3, taking on Sean Punisher Pearson, who's 11-6. Both of these men looking for a win, coming off of losses, but have been in the win column before in the UFC. Het, good wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, purple belt, I believe, good Golden Gloves boxing experience. Pearson, basically the same. They're cut out of the same mold. What really stands out is the age. Het is the younger of the two. He has the more solid credentials when it comes to the wrestling, and I think he has the bigger gas tank. Pearson seemed to be wearing out in his last couple fights towards the end of it. Seeing that, I think Het, he wins this fight with a decision, the wrestling and the top control. Moving on, next fight we're talking about, Henry Martinez, 8-2, taking on Bernardo Treco Magalesh, who's 11-2. Both of these men are in search of their first UFC victory. It's both of their second appearances in the octagon. Henry Martinez has a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling background, same as Bernardo Magalesh, and I believe that really this is going to come down to striking with two great grapplers. And I think that Martinez has the better hands. We saw him put together the better combinations against Matthew Riddle. Magalesh really kind of rudimentary, throws a little leg kick, a left hook, a right overhand, doesn't mix it up well. I think Martinez wins mixing it up well. He wins by decision or by TKO. He has more power, and I think he's going to get the TKO. Call that in the second round a TKO. He's going to apply the pressure and not let Magalesh away until he finishes him. Next matchup we're talking about, both of these men long awaited to make their debuts. Buddy Roberts, 11-2, and Chao Magalesh, who's 5-0. Both of these guys, by I said long awaited to make their debuts, each had a mishap the first time they tried to get into the octagon. Buddy Roberts, it wasn't his fault, but Sean Loeffler hurt his ankle after their weigh-in. That was no fight, obviously, after the hurt ankle of Loeffler, so he's been waiting to get in the cage. Magalesh was a late in the replacement to take on Fabio Maldonado back at UFC 142, but Maldonado then was not able to fight by the time of the date, and Magalesh has now been awaiting his debut. Both of these guys come from a grappling background. The striking is what's really going to make the difference. Magalesh, there's some YouTube videos on him. He's got solid grappling, but his hands, he leaves his chin out there. We could see him put together a Ronnie Marks kind of performance. His teammate from Novanyao uses wrestling, push against the cage, use control to win this one. But Roberts himself, great transitions, good control on his own, good at scrambling. I think that they have comparable grappling skills. The better striking skills are possessed by Buddy Roberts. In a split decision, I think that we're going to see Buddy Roberts win this one. He has a little bit of a reach. I think he's going to be able to exploit his advantage on the feet, and then for the most part in the scrambles on the ground, having neither man gain an advantage. Next fight we're talking about still in these prelims, Tim the Dirty Bird Means, who's 17-3-1, taking on Justin J-Bomb Salas, who's 10-3. Tim Means, both of these men actually have one win so far in the UFC. Means, he's the taller of the two fighters, has the reach, has more of the kickboxing style, does have a wrestling background. Salas has the wrestling background, and his nickname J-Bomb comes from that. With both the right and the left, he just swings for the fences, throws big hooks. I think that distance and takedown defense of Means, landing the knees, hurting Salas when he comes in, being the more composed fighter, throwing the more technical shots, I think that Means is going to win this fight, weaken Salas, hit him, hurt him, weaken the body with those knees. In the third round, I think we'll see a finish with a TKO from Tim Means. Next fight we're going on to Dustin Paige, 10-6, taking on Jared Papazian, who's 14-7 with one no contest. Paige slightly has a reach and a height advantage. has good submissions off of his back, but Papazian is a gamer. He's the tougher one. I just see him not playing on the ground because he does have to clean up his submission defense, but he's worked on it. He's cleaned it up. He's been in a 5-fight winning streak prior to the war split decision loss versus Mike Easton. I think Papazian puts it on Peg. If he's not able to finish him with the TKO, he will get the decision, but I think we'll see a TKO. Going to take this one in the first round, actually. I think Papazian's really just going to overwhelm, come out, force Peg into a corner, start unloading bombs on him, and finish him off. Next fight we go to, we have Leonard Bad Boy Garcia, who's 19-8-1, taking on Matt Grice, who's 14-4. Leonard Garcia, love this guy, always exciting, throws a lot of haymakers and a lot of bombs, exciting to watch, but he has that cardiovascular problem from throwing so many haymakers that he just wears himself out. We've seen him start off technical and lose it. It's really going to come down to how long he can stay technical. He does have 9 wins by decision, but by throwing the haymakers, he's going to leave himself open. And at some point, Grice will take this fight to the ground. I'm betting it's going to be midway through the second round, and we're going to end up about 29-28. Matt Grice, I think, is going to be able to ground out and wrestle away the decision from Leonard Garcia. Garcia will start out good, but will fade towards the end. Grice will then be able to execute the takedown, wear that out. So we're taking Grice to win a decision. Next fight we're talking about Seth Baczynski, Polish Pistola, 15-6, taking on Lance Benoist, who's 6-0. Baczynski has had 2 recent wins in the UFC. He's kind of on a roll. He's the bigger fighter. He has the reach. Benoist, he's had a win over Matt Riddle. Since then, we haven't seen much of him. He has really good grappling skills of his own. By the size, by the reach, and by the staying more active, I think that Baczynski's going to win this fight. But in the scrambles is where Benoist is going to be most lethal. Also, to say that we don't know if his striking has caught up to his grappling, it's been a while out there, so I like the more active fighter. I'm taking Baczynski in this fight to put pressure on late in the third round after some ground and pound, using his size, working into the corner. I think he's going to get on top. He's going to force the submission, win this probably with a rear naked choke in the third round. Next fight we're going to Mike Pierce, who's 13-5, taking on Carlos Eduardo Rocha, who's 9-1. Pierce, split decisions, close fights, the rugged style. He's a grinder. Carlos Eduardo Rocha gave Jake Ellenberger fits a year and a half ago almost, February of 2011. And since then, Ellenberger has skyrocketed. Rocha's been injured. Great grappling prowess. Pierce is the better striker. Pierce has a great wrestling background. I think Mike Pierce keeps this one standing and wins a unanimous decision over Rocha. But it's been so long since we've seen him. We could always see something spectacular out of Rocha and him win this with a submission. But I'm taking Pierce to win this, keeping it standing, using his wrestling and defense, and winning the decision. Now we're on to the main card. Eddie Wineland, 18-8 with 1 draw, taking on Scotty Jorgensen, 13-5. First thought right off the bat is Jorgensen, his wrestling, his ability to grind. The way that he came up short in his last performance versus Renan Barão did not sit well with him. For Eddie Wineland, his last 2 performances, he looked gun-shy, and he was really just outquicked by the speed of Uriah Faber and Joseph Benavidez. On paper, Wineland is the better striker. He is the heavier-handed of the 2 individuals. Jorgensen is the better wrestler. Wineland has shown better takedown defense as of late. In the early rounds against Uriah Faber, excellent. As time wore on, he grew more tired. I'm going to go with my first thought, and it's Jorgensen's wrestling. He's going to push the pace. He's going to push the action. And I really think that Jorgensen wins this fight. It's going to be 29-28. Could be a split decision or a unanimous. It's going to be at least 2 judges seeing it my way, though. Jorgensen wins, pushing the pace, getting on top of Wineland. Jorgensen was able to hit Barão. He will hit Wineland, and in the late rounds, he will be on top on the ground. So we're taking Jorgensen to win a decision. Next fight we're going up to, love this fight. Mike Pyle and Josh Neer. Pyle is 22-8-1. Well, Josh Neer is 33-10-1. Both of these guys have well-rounded skills. Josh Neer maybe a little more well-rounded because he has the TKO power, 17 TKOs, 12 submissions, as Pyle has the 16 submissions out of his 22 victories. So both men, very good skills. A weakness of Neer's, he likes to brawl, he'll get caught up in it. Pyle can take a punch and stays more in his grappler mode, relying on his wrestling. He can get on top. I believe, again, that we're going to see a decision. But both men have the propensity to lose 2 submissions. I think Mike Pyle will be able to get on top, win the scrambles, be the heavier hit man when it need be, and we'll see Mike Pyle win this fight with a unanimous decision. It could even end up being a submission in a scramble. Josh Neer most likely wins this if he just lands a heavy shot, and if it's an exciting knockout, I think Neer beats Pyle, but you cannot discount that Pyle's hands looked great against Ricardo Funch, and then he had his way with him. So this is a very entertaining fight from 2 veterans. I'm going with Pyle. Flip the coin on your choice for this one, who's going to win. Now we're up to the co-main event. This is between Erick Silva, 13-2 with 1 no contest, taking on Charlie Brenneman, 15-3. My first initial thought was just remember the 2 explosive performances we've seen out of Erick Silva the first 2 times in the octagon. His second one ended up being that horrible disqualification against Carlo Prater. We know he won that fight. He's being treated like he won that fight, and this is a big step up for him. The competition that he's stepping up against is Charlie Brenneman. Brenneman, out of his 3 losses, does have 2 losses by TKO, but he is a solid wrestler. Much more of a wrestler and a grappler of the needing to be on top and having that kind of power than Prater was or than Ramos was. I'd love to say that Silva's going to come out and win this fight with an explosive first round TKO. We just don't know it. Brenneman has only lost to 2 very good and heavy-handed themselves welterweights. I think that Brenneman can weather the storm. He's going to take this fight to the ground. I want to say Silva wins it, but I'm going to take Brenneman and win this in a decision. His work ethic, how much he grinds, getting this to the ground, and winning that control battle. We're going to take Charlie Brenneman. But if I'm wrong, I might actually be happier than if I'm right. And now we're going to go to the main event, which is a rematch to a 4th round that we should have saw in Australia. Flyweight tournament was on hold for a little bit. We'll get some Joseph Benavidez will get some closure to who his opponent is to the first UFC Flyweight Championship match. Demetrious Johnson, 14-2-1, and Ian Uncle Creepy McCall, 11-2-1. We'll do battle one more time. And if I left out Demetrious Johnson, it's Mighty Mouse. Probably left that out. These 2 men, it was a all over the place, showing every essence of mixed martial arts from the grappling to the striking in a crazy non-stop battle. Demetrious Johnson, who normally relies on his speed and his timing, saw his speed differential go away a little bit because of the lighter weight class. McCall just as fast. I still, though, think Johnson was the faster and was the better striker in this fight. But what it came to was that Uncle Creepy had better control, had more momentum, had the better wrestling, and secured the better positions. In a split decision, I'm going to go with Ian McCall to win this fight. I believe he won the first one. I picked him the first time. I was distraught when the judges read the scorecards in favor of the majority decision for Demetrious Johnson. Then to find out later on that the fight was a draw was disappointing. But I see Ian McCall rectifying the fight, winning this, and then having a date with Joseph Benavidez to decide who is the first UFC Flyweight Champion. So we're taking McCall, like I said. This has been Caged Minds. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the videos. Uncage the warrior within yourself. Check out Internet Sports News Network.co.uk. Great sports articles. Talks about MMA, football, all kinds of stuff. This is Caged Minds. Thank you for watching.